I've been wanting to address wife beating in Islam because it's becoming so prevalent in the news. And I'm going to mention another one. It really was a particular one that prompted me to make this video. But I found another one, and I just wanted to point it out first. This one comes from the New York Post. A Pakistani immigrant beat his wife to death in their Brooklyn home after she made the mistake of cooking him lentils for dinner instead of the hearty meal of goat meat that he craved, according to court papers. Noor Hussein, 75, was so outraged over the vegetarian fare that he pummeled his wife, Nazar Hussein, 66, with a stick until she was a bloody mess, according to prosecutors and court papers. Wow. A 75-year-old man beat his wife to death just for making him the wrong meal. Defense attorney Julie Clark admitted Hussein beat his wife, but argued that he is guilty of only manslaughter because he didn't intend to kill her. In Pakistan, Clark said, beating one's wife is customary. Customary. He comes from a culture where he thinks this is appropriate conduct, where he can beat his wife, Clark said in her opening statements at the Brooklyn Supreme Court bench trial. He culturally believed he had the right to hit his wife and discipline his wife. Culturally believed. Culturally believed. Well, what are the beliefs in Pakistan? What are the beliefs in Pakistan? Let's look at this next news article. This story comes from Canada. And actually, this was the reason why I wanted to do this video, because I was looking at the Rebel media, which if you don't know them, you should definitely check them out at the rebel.media. It's a Canadian conservative media outlet, and they're branching out and they do excellent journalism. And Ezra Levant, the head honcho over there, and he does an excellent job of exposing Islam religiously and culturally, and that is completely at odds with our Western values. There was a documentary done on this particular Syrian refugee family, Mohammed Rafia, age 54, who then was recently arrested for beating his wife. A Fredericton man who beat his wife with a hockey stick for half an hour told the court on May 24th that he didn't know it was against the law in Canada. So he's coming from an area in Syria where it's completely justifiable to beat your wife. And yet we're not supposed to blame him. We're not supposed to hold him accountable because he simply didn't know. Now, Justin Trudeau was the Prime Minister of Canada, was quick to fly many of these refugees from Turkey. They were already in a safe haven. There was a documentary done about this, and if I find it, I'll put it in the description box. But we're seeing the problems that's coming with this hasty rush to import a bunch of Muslim immigrants, the social cost, the social ramifications. And this is just one example, the example of wife beating that I'm pointing out. I'll do other videos related to this, but this is one that's really at odds. And yet feminists in the Western world, from Germany to Sweden, France to the US and Canada, feminists will not call out Islamic brutality of women because they're brown, and to call out anything of brown people is considered racist. So I think that's a bunch of nonsense. We need to call things what they are. This is just a cheap example of what importing a bunch of Muslims into this country, what will happen. Here's another one I found, an older one from 2015, but still it was so incredible I had to put it in. From another one from Canada, the Winnipeg Sun. A Winnipeg man who allegedly assaulted his wife in front of police and told an officer he could do what he wants with his property is now fighting a bail order banning him from having any contact with the woman. Well, of course, a husband assaults his wife. Yeah, he should face charges, even if her wish was to have contact with the accused. The Crown would strongly be opposed to any variation of the bail. Again, which is completely justifiable by our standards. However, in the presence of police, the accused was undeterred in committing an assault on his wife, Mitrovic said. The attitude he demonstrated should cause the court grave concern about the safety and protection of the public. This is strong. This is strong. Again, this is a very devout Muslim. Now, I have to record. Yeah, I just want you to see what I'm seeing, because it's so incredible. One of the 3 London Bridge terrorists, Rashid Redouane, beat his British wife and locked her indoors in a bid to turn her into a traditional Muslim wife. The Irish-based murderer punched, slapped, and kicked the mother of his child, Cherise O'Leary, and refused to let her out of the house if he caught her smoking or drinking alcohol. Wow. Redouane, who was part of the barbaric trio who killed 7 people on London Bridge and Borough Market, tried to get his wife to wear a hijab and eat halal food, but she refused, saying she was a Western woman. So when Western Muslim women like Linda Sarsour say that hijab is a choice in Islam, well, apparently not, because this man was trying to force his wife to wear one. A friend of Cherise told the Mirror she would try to arrange a meetup with the 38-year-old, but was regularly told she could not come. It would either be, he slapped me in the middle of the street today, or he's kicked me, or he will not let me out of the house, she said. She was scared, really scared. All right, so here's another important part of the story. Her terrorist former husband was a failed asylum seeker who slipped back into the UK after changing his name and marrying Charisse in Dublin. So here we have this failed asylum seeker who is really seeking to commit terrorism. He was a Muslim terrorist, came back into the country by changing his name and marrying Charisse. The Moroccan pastry chef, 30, was refused asylum in 2009 when he was using the name Rashid Elkdar. 3 years later, calling himself Redouane, he married London-born Charisse O'Leary. Wow. Soon after their wedding in Dublin, he is said to have returned to Morocco while his 33-year-old wife went back to London. In 2014, he applied for an Irish visa through his marriage to an EU citizen and was granted an EU card. So now he can go anywhere in Europe, in the EU. I mean, this gave him more flexibility to travel and to carry out whatever terrorist attack he wanted. See, this is why we need to be very careful with immigration. And this is not about race. It's about the pattern of Islamic terrorism and how much responsibility do we have to just throw away this politically correct nonsense so we can protect our citizens. Not just natural born, but foreign born that come here to be safe. Unbelievable. So you're probably saying, okay, Nicole, these are just a few examples out of many, many Muslims that come here. I'm sure most of them, the vast majority, are peace-loving, freedom-embracing individuals that just want to live in peace with their neighbor. You know, I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are many. I'm not saying this to say that all Muslims beat their wives or that non-Muslim men never beat their wives. No, but there is a pattern. There is a pattern. And to showcase, I want to take a look at this. A survey finds deeply regressive views of women amongst large majorities of Muslim men. A large-scale survey of views in Egypt, Lebanon, Morocco, and Palestine have reported extensive anti-woman views and widespread tolerance of domestic violence. So this is just mounting evidence. So why is it the case? It doesn't matter if it's in Africa or in the Middle East or in Asia, in countries like Indonesia and Pakistan. These trends continue. What's the common denominator? That they're Muslim. So obviously, the problem, what's driving this belief that men could beat their wives, is found in Islamic beliefs. It's religiously motivated. So we're going to look at Surah 434 in the Quran, to see what drives Muslim men to believe that they can beat their wives. Now I'm going to read from the Sahih International Version, but I have for you the other 3 or 4 translations. So it says, men are in charge of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other and what they spend for maintenance from their wealth. So in effect, they are like their property. So righteous women are devoutly obedient, guarding in the husband's absence what Allah would have them guard, but whose wives from whom you fear arrogance, first advise them, then if they persist, forsake them in bed, and finally strike them. But if they obey you, once more, seek no means against them. Indeed, Allah is ever exalted and grand. So it's saying very plainly, if you fear that your wife is going to become arrogant, first admonish them verbally. If they persist, don't sleep with them, as in don't have intercourse with them. And then finally, strike them. Now, this doesn't fly in our society. That doesn't fly, but this is what drives this belief. All right, so this verse is supported by various hadiths. The hadiths are the sayings of Muhammad as testified by his closest companions. So things he said, did, so that's basically what the hadiths are. The hadiths are comprised of volumes of books numbered differently by different publishers, graded weak, having less authority, to strong, having more authority amongst Islamic schools of thought. But here is one of the best supporting hadiths for this verse, Sahih Muslim number 2127. Here, one of Muhammad's wives, Aisha, followed him when he snuck out at night to see what he would do. When he saw her, she ran back into the house, and he struck her in the chest, causing her great pain. Now, Muhammad is considered to be the finest examples to Muslims. If he struck his wife, causing her great pain, shouldn't his followers do the same? According to the Quran, chapters 33-21, Muhammad is the perfect example to follow. Again, the easiest way to judge is by seeing this pattern of Muslim men beating their wives. It's not hard to find videos of them beating women publicly online, with no one intervening. There's no shortage of Muslim clerics openly stating that Muslims can beat their wives if they're disobedient. Do you think that once they come here, they think as we do? What we're seeing in Europe is the importation, and it is importation because many of the public do not want this, and many of these people are not true refugees. We know that the vast majority of these so quote-unquote refugees are Muslim. Meanwhile, there is a Christian genocide going on that no one wants to talk about. Nor are they getting the priority as truly persecuted people. They're not. Again, this is not to say that it's all Muslim men, but we need to gather up the facts, gather up the evidence, look at Europe, what's going on. Look at the footage of what's being done on European streets. And I'm going to get into other videos regarding rape, regarding honor killing, and regarding violence against Jews and Christians. But this is just a slice, and I could have showed you more examples. But this is more than enough, and more people need to understand this and speak out, because if you think this is the end of, Islamic terrorism, and that the police and the military are going to be able to protect us from all these things, after they come here, you've got another thing coming.